Hello world, and welcome back to Freeform Modeling Part 3. This will be the last in this series of Freeform Modeling in Revit 101. Obviously, there's a lot more complex things you can do with Freeform Modeling in Revit that have nothing to do with walls, windows, and doors. That being said, that would be much longer video and probably for a different audience. And so in this case, this is Revit 101, very simple, basic things you can do out of box Revit with freeform modeling. And the last thing we're going to do is to attempt columns as parametric families for the Barcelona Pavilion that we've been working the last two videos through. So if you go with me, you'll remember this is where we left off. We had completed all the walls, all the doors, all the roofs. So we're in pretty good shape. We have almost everything complete. I realize now that we're missing the bench in front of this wall. So we're going to model that very, very quickly. And then I'm going to show you how to do the columns. The columns I'm referring to in plan are these little red cruciform shaped things. And so I'm going to show you where to find them, first of all, and then second of all, how to model them. And we're going to actually model them as parametric families. So because there are actually two types, there's two sizes. There's a smaller column and then there's a bigger one. And in truth, I don't know which ones are which based on this plan, but I do know that there's two sizes. So we're going to model both sizes, and then we'll look at some photography to try to figure out where they are. In addition to that, I'm going to show you some more of the model in place, family extrusion, freeform extrusion options so that you get a full breadth of what you can do from freeform modeling, including void forms. And that will wrap us up for part 3. Okay, so before I get doing anything else, I'm going to model this bench very, very quickly. And so let's go ahead and do that. So architecture tab, component, model in place. I'm going to use it's not really furniture, but I'm going to go ahead and put furniture as the category for this particular family. And I'm going to hit OK. And then just using simple extrusions, I'm going to hit the extrusion button. And I'm going to click to this point. Actually, I'm going to use the rectangle tool. And I'm going to click from this point down to that point. Now, my expectation is that this is sitting at 18 inches, so it will end 18 inches above the ground, which is kind of a normal sitting height for a bench. And then from memory, I believe it is about 6 inches thick or tall. So I'm going to say the extrusion will start a foot off the ground, or off the slab, I should say. And then that should be it for that piece of it. We're going to go look in 3D and it looks something like this. I'm going to look at it from the front elevation. That looks pretty good. And so now go back to 3D and go back to plan. And now I'm going to model these columns that hold up the bench. And I'm going to show you a really fun tool once I get the column modeled, and then we'll be done with the bench. So again, create, extrusion, use this tool, which is the rectangle. And again, I'm just tracing. And now the extrusion start will be at 0. The extrusion end will be at 1 foot because it'll be under that bench. And then that will be done. Now, you notice that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, and they're relatively uniform, it looks like, in dimension, so from point to point. So I'm going to show you 2 ways of doing that without having to redraw them 8 times. The first is using the array tool. And you'll notice that there's different kinds of array. There's linear, radial, the number, where do you want to move it to, etc. So I like this option. So I know that there's 8, so I'm going to choose 8, and then I'm going to move, instead of moving from the second, I'm going to move to the last, right? So choose 8 and last. I click the end point. I go to this end point, and what should have happened is it made 8 of them, and I hit OK. And look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and they're all exactly aligned because they were uniform. That is really, really cool. It saved me a bunch of times, and this is what it looked a bunch of times, excuse me. This is what it looks like in 3D, so it's pretty darn good. I'm going to back up a little bit and show you how to do that process slightly differently. So again, choose the base, choose array, but instead of doing we still have 8, but instead of doing last, we're going to do second, right? Now the danger here is, especially since we're tracing, that we may be off a little bit. So I like the last better. It feels like it's more accurate, but the second option, so it just goes from the first component to the second component, and then it extrapolates that same distance across until you get to 8. And now look, it's different, right? Because of the trace, or sorry, because of the scan. So I prefer the first option. We'll finish this one out just so you can see where it landed, right? So it landed on that edge and it landed inside of that edge. So that's not good. I'm going to redo that to the way I showed it to you before, which is the array, 8 elements, move to the last instead of the second, click that point, and the software does the math for me and lines them up beautifully. All right, so that is done, and you can see, hopefully, you can see that the bases are under the bench. The bench is where it's supposed to be, I believe, in the height. Excuse me. If I get the height wrong, I can go back and fix it later, but I believe that's true. So we're done with the bench. Now let's go to the column. And now let's locate the number of columns there are. There actually might be one in that wall, or maybe that's just a graphic error. But as far as I'm aware, there are 1, 2, 3, 4. Excuse me, I'm sorry. There are 4 columns and 2 rows. 1 row, 2 rows. I'm going to show you something that is not uniquely Revit, but it is a really, really nice Revit tool. And this is going to help us later on when we line up the columns. So under the architecture tab, I can create a column grid. And I'm going to start that out using this first row. And I'm going to line this up all the way across here. And that is number 1. Okay. Now the same thing, if I have a bunch of column grids, I can use the array tool and array these out, but I only have 2. So I'm gonna do that for the rows. When I get to the columns, I will use the array. Okay, so then here's another grid and line up, and it will snap for things so I don't have to worry about where they start and end. And then that's brilliant. So I have my 2 rows. Now let's do the verticals, which are the columns. No pun intended. Gosh, I'm sorry. All right, so there is my column, my vertical column grid. I'm going to change that to an alphanumeric character, or alpha character, excuse me, of A, because the horizontals or the rows are numeric, right? And then just like I did with the column bases, I'm going to move these guys using the array tool. Sorry, copy them using the array tool. So I'm going to select array. What just happened? I'm going to select the column, then array. I know I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, so 4. And I'm going to move from the start point to the end point, lining this up just like that. Oh, I don't know why it did that ABCD, but anyway. So what you see there, hopefully, is that these things are now in line and they're creating a joint connection. Oh, these are slightly off, aren't they? Well, that one looks money, but these are off. All right, so I'm going to undo that and then do it the old-fashioned way because I haven't shown you this tool yet either. So this is the copy tool. It's not as fast or as efficient as the array, but it will allow us a little bit more flexibility. So excuse me. So there's the first copy, and again, I'm getting as close as I can using the trace command, or tracing this floor plan. But there we go, A, B, C, D in alphabetical order, and it aligns and creates, more importantly, an intersection between the horizontal and vertical columns. That'll become important in a minute. All right, now we're going to do a custom column parametric family. So go to File, New, Family, and just like we did with the chairs, it should open up your English Imperial file, and then you'll scroll down to generic. Actually, I never did go back and change that, so I'm going to change that. I could do columns, right? Here's column. My problem with that is you see it gives you a bunch of preset information for the parametric component. I don't need all that preset information. So I am going to simply use, well, actually, let's go ahead and do it. And I'll show you what that looks like. So this is the base information that comes out of REVIT for this column. And what it's telling you for generic family column, and what it's telling you is there's a width and a depth of 2 feet. That's fine. We're going to stretch that. But so then, at least in this way, I don't have to reprogram those parameters. So that's totally fine. But what I do know, and I've did a little research, what I do know is that the columns at the Barcelona Pavilion, there's 2 sizes. There's a 1 foot size and there's a 6-inch size. And just graphically, I can tell, because of the 6-inch, the middle half of that 6-inch column is about 1/3 of the total width, which means this is 2 inches, 2 inches, and 2 inches. So in both columns, they're the same width. The flanges are the same widths. So I know that this is a 2-inch by 2-inch cruciform. So 2-inch, 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 etc. So when I go back to Revit, I'm going to model with that in mind. And so opening back, and I tabbed over is how I got there. I'm going to add 2 more reference planes. Sorry, 4 more actually. One there, one there, one there. And I'm being very sloppy about it, but you'll see why here in a second. All right, so the first thing I need to know is that these lines are equal. I need them to be 1 inch on either side of the center line. So the first thing I'll do is I will select those 3 in sequence and choose equal, right? The next thing I do is choose those 2 lines and pull that dimension up. And I want that dimension, is it gonna give it to me? There, I want that dimension to be 2 inches. What am I doing wrong? Let me get rid of the equal. And there we go, 2 inches. Okay, let's do it this way instead. It's not working out the way I thought it would. Actually, yeah, it will. I just need to get a different parameter. Okay, so again, let me dimension the total width. And this time I'm gonna label that parameter flange width. This actually gives me more control in the future. All right, so the flange width is 2 inches, and the equal are set up so that whatever size it is, it'll always change. And then similarly, I'm going to make these 2 equal, just like that. And then I'm going to assign this dimension the same thing as the previous by choosing flange width. Notice it changed. That's awesome. And then I am good to go. Okay, so now I'm going to simply draw the cruciform shape using the guidelines I have, and I'll show you how it flexes. Before I move on, I know the flange width is 2 inches, at least I believe it is. So we're going to go ahead, already set that up for 2 inches. And notice how those things flexed, and now, but they're equal, they still remain equal because I gave them those parameters, so the 2-inch parameter. Okay, now I don't know if everyone does it this way, but this is the way I do it because I like to lock these things in as I draw. So I'm going to go extrusion, and I'm going to use the line tool. And normally I would just draw something like this, right? Very sloppy because I'm going to use my absolute favorite Revit tool and make sure that all of these things are connected, right? So that's it. Again, don't murder me on the alignment. I'm getting ready to fix that. So first thing I do is I line this line and lock it. I line this one and lock it. Line that one and lock it. I line this one and lock it. I don't want to keep saying that over and over again. You get the idea. I'm just going through and making all these alignments, and I am sure there's a better way of doing it. And don't blow me up in the comments with the best way, because there's a million ways to do everything in Revit. This is just the way I like to do it, right? Okay, so now every line is aligned with a guide, and that should be good. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And before I do anything else, I need to look at this thing in profile so that I can align the tops with those guides. So I'm gonna look at it in front, because I only made this thing 1 foot tall. Notice that there's an upper level reference. That's fine. I'm actually gonna go ahead and give it a a reference line parameter and associate that parameter with a height that I can control later, right? So there's this guy. I'm going to add the new parameter. I'll call it height. Hit OK. And then in my properties box for this family type, change my height parameter to 9 feet. Hit OK. That flexes. And then I'm going to align again, once again, using the reference line that I created, not the default one. So I have to tab over to make sure I hit it. So that's the one I created, and then align it that way, right? So now if I go to my properties box and change that to actually 10, actually let's make it 15 feet, right? So 15 feet, notice how it's stretched and flexed. Similarly, and I'm gonna look at this thing in 3D here in 1 second. If I did everything right, which I think I did, I'm going to change this cruciform shape now using that same properties box. And I know that there's one option that's 1 foot and another option that's 6 inches, right? So I'm going to do the 1 foot option first, and it should flex and maintain those flange widths, which it did. Beautiful. But then I'm going to show you how to create new family types within the same family. Okay, so right now this is the 1 foot by 1 foot column. I'm going to create, I'm going to create here, and I'm going to label this, actually create a new type. I'm going to call it 1 foot cruciform. It'd be awesome if I knew how to spell cruciform column. Okay, and that's these parameters. So I want to check all of those things, hit OK. And then I'm go back and I'm going to do a new one. I'm going to call it 6-inch cruciform column. And then this time I'm going to change it to 6-inch, hit apply and OK. Notice that changed. And then if I choose the different ones, you'll see them change based on the parametric properties. That is awesome. I don't care who you are. That is awesome. Okay, so I have the columns done, but I did promise to show you different ways of making the same columns, right? Not the same columns, sorry, different columns, the ways of making different columns. And it'll just be a fun exercise to do in Revit anyway. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is what's called a blend. And a blend takes one shape or geometry and connects the dots between the other shape or geometry. So I'm going to do exactly that right here. So we're going to go back to this component. And now normally you would need, if you wanted to make it parametric, I'm not going to worry about that. But if you wanted to make it parametric, you would set up these reference planes for that to flex. I'm not super worried about that. So I'm going to simply draw some geometries. And I'm going to start with just a simple rectangle on the bottom. Actually, I will make it based on the width and depth and show you something else. You don't have to draw something and align it. You can just draw it and then lock it after you've drawn it. Now, some would argue that's faster than what I did earlier, and maybe it is, but that's one thing you can do. Okay, now I'm done with the lower profile. What I mean by that is the profile that touches the ground, the shape that touches the ground is the lower profile. But I do want it to flex to a different shape. So I am going to use this button to change to the top profile, okay? Now the top profile, I want to be a smaller rectangle. So it should look like an obelisk kind of. So I'm gonna choose this shape. I'm gonna lock those in place and then hit OK. And when I look at that thing in 3D, actually, let me create a new parameter. So under family type, I'm going to create a new parameter. So this is new. And I want this to be a visibility parameter. So I'm basically going to say on, off. Okay. And then you go to data type and we want yes or no. under the data type, and under parameter, we're going to choose visibility, so on off. Hit OK. Notice that this is set up for on off, and I hit apply and OK. So what that means is if I want this 6-inch cruciform column on, it's checked. If I want the 1-foot cruciform column, it's checked. And if I want this trapezoid column, it would be unchecked, right? So that's the theory. So actually, I'm going to change this thing from on off to what do they call it? Not trapezoid, but obelisk. So I'm going to call it obelisk. Okay, so that's an on-off parameter for the obelisk. It will not be on in the cruciform. It will not be on in the 6-inch or the 1-foot. And I'm going to create a new parameter called a new family type called obelisk. Okay, and it will be on there. Now, so far, I've just set up the parameters. I haven't done anything else, right? So I hit OK and hit apply and OK. Now I need to assign it. So this guy has to have a visibility graphic, the parameter I made called obelisk. So that is on, okay? These guys will not have that visibility graphic, the obelisk. Actually, they would actually still. So let's go ahead and turn those on, or turn it on. And then I want to change that to 1 foot. So I'm making sure that I assign this one too. So obelisk, it's already set. Brilliant. Okay. Now, what should happen is when I put this in the model, we're going to test it here in a second. When I put this in the model and I choose the obelisk, the cruciform should be hidden and the obelisk should be the only one present. You might have to go back and watch this video a time or two, but I believe that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to look at this thing in front, because the one thing I haven't done yet is align the vertical component of the obelisk with the vertical bit in the height parameter. So I'm going to get it up here, somewhere around there, and then I'm going to use my favorite tool again, the align, click, click, done, and then now the obelisk column will be ready for prime time. Okay, so let's test it. I'm going to save, before I do anything else, I'm going to save this. Save it where you save all of your families, but I'm going to call it, what was I going to call this? Bark column. Actually put my stuff in downloads because I moved them later. So I'll call it bark column, save, and then load into project just like we did with the chair. And it's going to say, do you want to save? Yes, I always want to save. Now, I'm just going to put these 3 things out here so that you can see the 3 of them together. So this is the 1 foot. It says I can't see it. We'll see why here in a second. This is the 6-inch, and then this is the obelisk. There's the obelisk. Okay, so why can't I see them? So I go to 3D, look at them in the front, and there's the obelisk. And what should be happening, it says I can see it, so there it is. But why does it look like that? I think I messed something up. Okay, so let's go back to edit the family, and I'm going to look at this thing. And I'm just going to make sure that those are turned off. So I think that's what I did wrong the first time. Overwrite. Yes, there we go. Okay, so there's the obelisk column. Notice that the cruciform shape is gone. And I go back to plan, and I'm going to copy this guy over there, and one more. This one will be the 1 foot cruciform and should be turned off of obelisk, so that's right. And this one will be the 6-inch cruciform and then turned off. Why can't I see them? Let's double check. So it's going to go to visibility graphics and make sure the columns are turned on. They are. All right, so one other thing we can do is hit this light bulb, and that allows us to see hidden objects. I don't see anything, so I'm not real sure. I'm not real sure what's going on. Let me try this one more time. So I'm going to edit the family, and I'm going to look at this thing in lower plan. So the obelisk is there, and that has that parameter. Maybe I need to assign them individually. I guess I need a visibility override for each one of these. I thought it would be enough to flex them, but it's not. So I'm going to make a new visibility parameter, call it 1 foot cruciform column, and that will be a yes/no visibility parameter. Hit OK, and then hit apply. And then I'll make another one, which is the 6-inch cruciform. 6-inch cruciform. 6-inch cruciform, I think I'm saying that right. Cruciform column. And again, yes, no, visibility parameter. Hit apply and OK. And the 6-inch would not have the 1 foot. Hit apply and OK. Okay, so now what's happening, I think, is the 6-inch and the 1 foot were just flexed by parameters, but they weren't flexed by visibility. So what I need to do is copy this column and then paste it back, align to same place. And then that one, I'm going to move it just for a second. Let's call it 1 foot. Okay. This one will have the visibility parameter of 1 foot. This one will have the visibility parameter of 6 inches. And then obviously the obelisk is already set to obelisk. All right, so I think I have flexed that correctly. So I'm going to move this back to 1 foot and hit load into project. Yes, I want to save. Overwrite. Oh, look, they all show up. Isn't that amazing? All right, so there's this one, there's this one. Okay, so this is the 1 foot, this is the 6-inch, and the obelisk still shows. Oh, because I have it shown. That's why. Okay, there we go. Okay, brilliant. So that took me a minute to get there to figure that out, but you now see with one family, 3 different kinds of columns, and they're all flexed based on which kind of column you want to use. So that's brilliant. Now I'm going to show you 2 more tools in that same family type column, which are freeform extrusion tools. And we will be done for today, or we're done for this lesson anyway. So the next one I'm going to show you is easily one of my favorites, and it is called Revolve. And then there is Sweep, Sweep Blend. So I'm going to show you 3 more columns, okay? So I'm actually going to name them that. So before I go any further, because they're all going to have visibility toggles, so I'm going to create one called Revolve. I'm going to create one called Sweep. And I'm going to create one called Sweep. Blend. Okay. And then similarly, I'm going to create new visibility parameters for all 3 and then assign them as they model them. Okay, so this one is Revolve. And it is a yes/no. Visibility, hit apply and OK. This one is a sweep, and it again is a yes, no, visibility graphic, hit OK, and then one more, which is sweep blend. And that again is a yes, no, visibility graphic, apply, and OK. Now, I need to set up all these on-offs. So I'm going to start at the very top. And the only thing that should be on for the 1 foot cruciform is the 1 foot cruciform. So I hit apply. Then I'm going to go to 6-inch. The only thing that should be on is the 6-inch cruciform, hit apply. Then I'm going to go to the obelisk. The only thing that should be on is the obelisk, which was the blend, if you remember. And then I'm going to go to, so that's true. Then I'm going to go to revolve. The only thing that should be on is revolve. And right now there is nothing there, so all these things are going to look gray. Then I'm going to move to sweep. Again, the only thing that should be on is sweep. And then finally, I'm going to move to sweep blend. And then the only thing that should be on is sweep blend. Okay, now, what does this mean? Well, again, you could make these parametric in the size parameters, but I just want to demonstrate to you how these tools work. So sweep blend is pretty fun, and I'm just going to model it off here. It's not going to be parametrically driven by size. It'll be parametrically driven by on-off. So what a sweep blend is in a 3D view using the set the plane as the center, I'm sorry, lower level reference. That's the flat plane. Okay. We're going to draw a path, a simple, we're just going to sketch a path. Wait a minute. Set my plane to lower reference level. Okay. And then in the lower reference level, I'm just going to draw just like a C shape. Okay, so that is my my pathway anyway. And then, oh wait a minute, it should have been my pathway. It wasn't for some reason. Why is it doing this? Sorry. There we go. It should allow me to create a single sweep. Okay, let's try it this way then. Using the pick line. Why is it? Okay, well, I can just do a single line. It's fine. All right, so there's my path. And then in that path, I can either load a profile or sketch one. So I'm going to select profile one, and I'm just going to draw something. So edit profile by sketch, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle, something like that, right? And then hit OK. And then in profile number 2, I'm going to edit the sketch, and this time I'm going to draw, let's do a polygon of some kind. Right, hit OK. And what will happen when I hit OK is it's going to take this rectangle and add the necessary geometry to make it this shape as it moves along this path, which is that geometry there. That's pretty fun. And there's so much potential for that. I've used these for benches and other kinds of fun shapes. So this is really neat stuff, I think. Now that it's modeled, though, I have to give it that visibility parameter for sweep blend or it will not show up. Right, so there's that. That one is done. Now let's move on to sweep. So that's the next one we're going to do. And as you can imagine, it's very similar to sweep blend. The difference is there's only one profile. I'm sorry, yeah, that's right. There's only one profile. So go to create, go to sweep. I'm going to sketch a path. In this case, I'm going to use a rectangle, right? Something like this. And then in 3D, I'm going to, again, either select a profile that I've already made or sketch one in real time. And I'm going to do this sketch in real time. this guy this time. Hit OK and hit check. And then you see the geometry it made, right? So again, unlimited potential for how you could use this. So I'm going to make sure that the yes, no is set to sweep. We're going to change to, I think, is our final one, which is revolve, and it's also probably the most fun. And so for this one, however, I am going to switch to a front view because I need these lines to help shape this thing. Okay, so now with the front, with the revolve, it is what it sounds like. I'm going to create a extrusion, but it's an extrusion around a datum line. So in this case, I'm going to use an axis line, and I'm going to pick the center reference line for the geometry, right? Or for the model. So there's my reference line. Actually, it's too long. I'm going to align it to the lower reference level. Beautiful. And then actually want the height to be aligned to the top reference level. This will make sense here in a second. Okay. And then now I can draw my boundary line. Now, just like before, the boundary line must be a closed polygon. So I'm going to use a simple rectangle, which if I did nothing else would turn out to be a cylinder, right? But I am going to do something else, something fun, hopefully. All right, so now I have the rectangle minus one edge, and I'm going to use the spline tool to make a fun, at least I think a fun geometry. Right? So like a vase kind of thing. And I'm going to look at this thing in 3D when I hit enter, and then there we go. We looked at hidden line. There's my vase. I need to give it the view parameter to make sure it does the right thing. So that is revolve. And then we are done with all the different kinds of extrusion tools you can use. We're going to loop that back into the model. Now I'm not going to make new ones. I'm just going to flex these, right? So here's the 1 foot cruciform. I actually want that to be the revolve, and there it is. I want that one to be the sweep, and there it is. I want that one to be the sweep blend, and there it is, right? So that is how you use a parametric family to, in freeform modeling, a parametric family that is driven by a yes-no command. Now, for our purposes, we're going to delete all of these, and we're going to go back to the plan, and we're going to place just the 6-inch because I think that's what it is. So we're going to go to architecture, model, component in place. Component, not model in place. Choose the component, which in this case, I'm looking for the 6-inch. I don't see it, so I'm going to start typing it. 6-inch. Wait a minute. Oh, we called it something else. It's called bark, right? Bark. What do we call it? Oh, I'm sorry. It is not a component, it is a column because we made it a column. So we choose architectural column, and then here we go. Here's our columns. So 6-inch, and notice that it will snap the center of the column to the grid line, which is why we took that time and energy to do that. So hit OK, and I'm placing these columns without having necessarily to zoom in and out because I can just place them on the intersection of the column grid, which is super helpful. And then we should have all of our columns, and I think the model's done. Now you're probably going to say, wait a minute, those columns are going beyond the roof. Well, they are columns and they're Revit smart. So what does that mean? If I select the column and I tell it to attach to the top or base of something, it will automatically shrink itself without me having any doing any Boolean operations or adding or subtracting or flexing or stretching or any of that stuff. So hit add, boom. Oh, wait a minute. What's going on? Add. There we go. Column's already attached. Oh, you know what's going on? It doesn't like the height parameter I gave it, this 15 feet. So I can type in 9 feet and it'll change all of them all at once. but because I overrode the height parameter, it would not flex. It would not flex to the roof using that tool. So I'm going to go back into the family to fix that. And I fix that by going to this front view or left view, doesn't really matter, I guess. I'm going to select this. Wait, where did I place that? There it is. Select this guy and delete that. So there's now, this is no longer locking that in place. Instead, these things should be flexing with the upper reference level. So I'm going to select that, lock, lock. So I'm going through and locking all the things that were height specific. There we go. Okay, so now those are all in place, right? And I can change this to 15 feet to make the point when we get to, but notice how they all stretched. All right, so I'm gonna load that back in and now overwrite. Where'd they go? They all automatically did that. Why did they do that? Because they're attached. If I detach it, so detach, and then give it a height of something, actually that's the wrong one, it won't flex because it's set at 9 feet. So what if I change that roof height? Let's change the roof height. Will the columns come with it? Those did because they were attached, right? You guys see that? So column attach, bing, column attach, bing, and so on and so forth. So anyway, long story short, and you can select a multiple at a time and instead of doing all the individually. And now those are all attached. So I have them all good. And then I only did that for educational purposes. You wouldn't do it that way, but I can put the roof back by undo, or I can just do the align tool, which I just did, and align the tops of the existing roof with the other existing roof. Notice the columns went with it, and no extra Boolean modeling, cutting, voiding operation was necessary. I hope that was informative. I know it seemed chaotic when I was doing the family creations because it wasn't quite doing the things I wanted it to do, but hopefully you were able to stick with me. For my own students, or for my students who are taking this as a class, I'm going to ask one more thing of you. I would like you to place the different shaped things, columns, out in the plaza or near the pool, I should say, so that you can demonstrate that you had completed that effort. So make sure you have the obelisk here, make sure you have the revolve there, make sure you have the sweep there, and they don't have to be exactly the same size shape things that I made, but I need you to demonstrate that you understood these tools, right? So this is a sweet blend. This is my gosh, what is this called again? A blend, not a sweet blend. So make sure you know how to do the blend, make sure you know how to do the revolve, the sweep, and then the sweep blend. And so for my students, you all should have that as part of your assignment. For everybody else, hopefully that was informative and is the last of the freeform modeling tools that I will share as part of Revit 101. Have a good day and look forward to the next time we're together.